Okay, college football 25 is finally here. So I'm not sure if you're like me, but I hate all the realignment in college football. So what I decided to do is rearrange all the conferences, it's a great feature that they have, just like the old college football games. But I wanted to rearrange the conferences into regional conferences the best I could. Some of them I had to go a little bit further distance, but so I set it up this way. There's 5 power conferences, and there's 5 relegating conferences. So what I mean by that is there is a Power 5 conference with 16 teams, and they will have a corresponding second tier conference. And those teams will play their own season, and the winner of that conference will get to play at the end of the season, in the bowl season, the worst team in that corresponding Power 5 conference. Winner stays in or goes to the Power 5 conference. So I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to play a dynasty with it, full seasons, and kind of see if any of these lower tier teams can move up season to season. Full recruiting, everything's going to be automated. But let's see how this is. So what I want to do right now, just go over, purpose of this video, just go over the conferences and how they're set up, what teams got moved, what teams are in the power conferences, and which ones are in the relegation conferences. So the first conference I want to go over is the ACC, and then I'll go straight to the conference that is their relegating conference, so you kind of see how they're matched up. So for the ACC, I wanted to keep it all East Coast, sort of a mix between the current ACC and the old Big East, with a couple of teams that are in those regions that I wanted to kind of keep the natural rivalries, like a Pitt and a Penn State, Pitt and a WVU, Florida State, Florida Miami. So I wanted to keep these teams in the same conference. So here's the teams we have. So Florida State, North Carolina State, Penn State, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, North Carolina, Clemson. Maryland comes over from the Big Ten back to the old ACC. Duke. Rutgers leaves the Big Ten, comes over to the ACC. Miami. Central Florida. This is one where I wanted to keep the Florida teams together. Them and Florida. So I moved them into this region. Syracuse, Virginia, and Pitt. So that's your ACC. Now, the conference that is going to be their relegation conference is going to be the American Conference. So here's the American Conference. Now you're going to see one team that is currently in the Big East. I'm sorry, the ACC that is I put in this relegation conference, and that was a kind of tough choice for Boston College here. I put them in there simply because they've been one of the worst teams in the ACC over the past, I don't know how long, since they pretty much have been in there. They produce some decent players that go on to play in NFL, but for the most part, I put them in here. All likelihood, they might be going to the championship game to get back into the ACC at the end of the year, but that's where I put them. But here's there's 12 teams in this conference. So James Madison, Coastal Carolina, Old Dominion, South Florida, Florida International, BC, Marshall, Florida Atlantic, Temple, East Carolina, and then these 2 teams, UConn and UMass, they're no longer independents. They're in the American Conference. I got rid of all the independents. They're all placed into conferences now. So that is your first 2 conferences that are matched together. So the next conference we'll go to, let's go ahead and do the Big Ten. So a lot of this is going to be the same teams that are currently in the Big Ten. I moved out all of the teams that joined from the West Coast. Some of the old Big 12 teams are gone, but I tried to keep this as regional in the Midwest as possible. So here's the Big Ten, the current Big Ten. Michigan, Ohio State, Louisville, which regionally they're right in that area. They could have gone to any of three conferences. They could have gone to the SEC. They could have gone to the ACC. They could have gone to the Big Ten. But this is a good spot for them. Iowa, I bring over their in-state rival from the Big 12, Iowa State, Northwestern. Kansas State and Kansas will also be in this conference. They are in-state rivals, and they fit well in the Midwest. Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, Purdue, Michigan State, Indiana, again, Cincinnati, right there in Ohio, right between Louisville and Ohio State. They fit perfect in this conference. And Notre Dame is finally forced to be in a conference. No more independent for you, Notre Dame. So that is your Big Ten for this. Now, their corresponding conference for relegation is naturally the MAC. The MAC was the easiest conference because nothing changed. All 12 teams that are currently in the MAC stayed in the MAC. So they're Miami University, Toledo, Ohio, Northern Illinois, Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan, Buffalo, Ball State, Western Michigan, Akron, and Kent State. So if you're a MAC fan, nothing's going to change for you other than the fact that your team might be able to play their way into the Big Ten at the end of the season. So, third conference I want to cover is the SEC. Now, this one took a lot of change. Simply for the fact that there's all those old Big 12 teams in there. They're moved out. Really wanted to keep this into the southern region of the United States, basically from the East Coast and your Alabamas, Georgias, all the way over to Louisiana and everything in between. So here are your 16 Power 5 SEC teams. Alabama, Georgia, Tulane gets a shot. They get moved in. Appalachian State, natural for geography. Georgia Tech comes over from the ACC. Ole Miss, Memphis, they get in. They get a shot. There's going to be some teams you're looking like, man, they're going to get crushed right off the bat, which they probably will. But they're in. LSU, Middle Tennessee, Tennessee. Middle Tennessee got in just because they're their natural regional rival with Tennessee. Not on their level, but regionally. Kentucky, Auburn, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Wake Forest. Wake Forest comes over from the ACC. The one tough decision I had to make was putting Louisville into the Big Ten. They're right there in Kentucky. I wanted to move them over there, but just the way the numbers worked out, 16 teams in the conference, that's kind of how I had to go. So the SEC's relegation conference is going to be Conference USA. Conference USA, they might have a tough time. They have some teams that might have a tough time getting into the SEC one day. But we'll see. You never know. The recruiting, how this builds out, their rosters, might have a team that gets in there. So the Conference USA teams, now these next three relegation conferences only have 10 teams. The first two we went over had 12 teams. So that's just kind of how the numbers worked out. And it actually worked out nice because down the road, if any teams get added, move up from 1A to 1A. A great place I can pop them. I have 3 different conferences I can pop into. So the first team is Liberty, Jacksonville State, pretty new to Division One. Western Kentucky, South Alabama, UAB, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, Charlotte, another newer team, along with Kennesaw State to Division One, and then Southern Miss. So they are going to be the relegation league for the SEC. All right, our fourth Power 5 conference is going to be the Big 12. So this again had a lot of teams from the old Big 8, old Big 12 coming back into that region, and naturally they should be playing each other. They shouldn't be spread all over the country as they are now. So SMU, I know you just got into the ACC this year, but you're moving back southwest and you're getting into the Big 12. So the first team is SMU. Texas comes back from the SEC. Troy, that was a tough one. There was a couple teams that I was thinking about putting in over them, but I ended up deciding to put them into the Big 12. Oklahoma State, Texas San Antonio. They actually have a pretty decent roster this year. Oklahoma, Missouri. Rice was another one that was on the fence of getting in. Ended up putting them in. Texas Tech, Texas A&M, North Texas, the home of Mean Joe Green. TCU, Nebraska comes back from the Big Ten, back to where their natural home should be. Houston, Baylor, and Arkansas comes out of the SEC and back into their natural home of the Big 12. So there's your 16 teams in the Big 12. Now the Big 12's relegation conference is going to be the Sun Belt Conference. So the Sun Belt Conference also again has 10 teams. There's some teams in here that have had some pretty good history, and I can see them definitely being able to move up into the Big 12 at some point. So here is your Sun Belt Conference. UNLV, Texas State, UTEP, Arkansas State, Louisiana Tech, Nevada, Louisiana, Tulsa, Louisiana Monroe, and Sam Houston. So there's your 10 teams Sun Belt that will be the relegation league for the Big 12. Now, the last conference is obviously the Pac-12, which has been decimated this offseason. No longer. They're back. And they're back full strength, 16 teams. This is how this Pac-12 should look if everybody wasn't greedy in college football. A lot of natural rivalries, not a lot of regional rivalries. Some are going to be new ones, some are going to be the old ones. So here's your 16-team Pac-12 conference. Washington, Oregon, Boise State, Arizona, San Jose State. Now San Jose State, they were iffy. I was contemplating between them, Fresno State, San Diego State, but I'll be honest with you, I like their uniforms, so I put them in. Oregon State, Utah, Wyoming was another one that was on the fence. The only reason I put them in is regionally. I wanted another more of a mountain region team rather than everything being from like on the coast. So I wanted one more team. I don't know, they might get kicked out of for the first year, but you never know. USC, Cal, UCLA, Washington State, Stanford, Arizona State, BYU, and Colorado, the home of primetime, Deion Sanders. And the last conference we're going to go over today is the relegation conference for the Pac-12, which is naturally the Mountain West. 10 teams in this conference. There are a lot of teams that I could have swapped out for either Wyoming or San Diego State. San Jose State from this conference and started them in the Pac-12, but you know my reasoning. Now, there's 2 oddball teams in this conference that regionally do not fit at all, and there's a reason why I put them in here. So I'm just going to go over the teams first. New Mexico State, Air Force, Fresno State, here's one of them, Navy, Utah State, Hawaii, Army is the second one, and here's the reason I want to put them. I wanted to put all the military academies in the same conference. It's the only reason why they're in there. They could have easily been in the ACC or the AC, MAC, the Big Ten. They could have been in any of those conferences on the East Coast, but I strictly just wanted them to play in the same conference, all 3 military institutes. The last 3 teams are Colorado State, New Mexico, and San Diego State. So there you have it. There's the new realignment for college football. This is how naturally it should be. I wish that there was something that could be done to make it this way in real life, but can't. So we're going to play it out and see how it goes on this game. So each week what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably post 2 or 3 games, and I'm only going to be posting the games of the week, but I will do a weekly recap of the conference to see where the standings are, see if some of these teams that are realigned in new conferences, if they're able to compete with some of the other teams there. But hope you enjoy this. Hope everything turns out well, and I will see you guys on the next one. Please, if you can, I'd love it if you liked, commented, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to build and grow. This is really my first time ever commentating on one of my videos. I typically just post either shorts or regular videos of my gameplay, but I'm going to try this out for this game. So I'm excited. College football 2025 is back, baby. Here we go.